Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Morgan. I'm a PhD candidate in Theatre and Performance Studies in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and on this channel I talk about reading, writing, note-taking, knowledge management, academia, and in this series I'm going to be taking you along for the ride of the end of my PhD. That's right, I have decided that this is the beginning of the end for my PhD. I am hoping to defend by August 2024, and if not, then definitely by the end of 2024, and I want to take you along with me, but more importantly, I want an accountability partner, and that is what you will be. So I just wanted to introduce you to this vlog and this vlog series. You will hopefully be seeing weekly-ish videos from me, or whenever I feel like the vlog ends. They're not going to be real weeks. So without further ado, let me pass you along to past Morgan, who is getting to work on her PhD. Hello, it's a Friday morning at almost 9 a.m. and if you've been around for a while, then you might know that every weekday morning I meet up with a friend who is studying for their PhD in Germany, and we work for 2.5 hours in Pomodoro sessions, 25 minutes on, 5 or 10 minutes off, and right now we're in the middle of one of those Pomodoros. So I'll make this brief, but what I'm doing this morning is going back through Bruno Latour's book, Reassembling the Social, to remind myself of the ideas in there and actually take notes on the book, because the first time that I read it, and it was also assigned in some of my graduate studies classes, I didn't really take notes. I highlighted passages from the text and then made some jot notes in the margins, so I have a general idea of what happens in the book, but I don't have really specific documented knowledge of the things that Latour is doing in this book, so I'm now going through and correcting that mistake. It's not taking very long to upload these notes into my Obsidian, my Zettelkasten system, because I already do have all of the important passages highlighted, but still it's frustrating to have not done things right the first time. So let me tell you a bit now then at the beginning of this vlog where I'm at with my dissertation. My original goal was to have by February 2024, which is quickly approaching, an entire rough draft of my dissertation, maybe excluding the introduction and conclusion, so that I could send that to my committee and they could get a sense of how all of my ideas are flowing throughout the dissertation. And the goal in getting this in by February is that maybe if I hurry, I can get the whole thing defended by the end of August of 2024. So my own personal deadlines I set for myself was to finish the first chapter by the end of November, second chapter by the end of December, third chapter by the end of January, and then just patch things up to be able to send this off to my committee in February. But I didn't make that. It is now mid-January and I'm just finishing up the first chapter and I have started in on the second, but everybody has told me that after you have finished a chapter, the other ones just get faster and faster because now you have an understanding of what a dissertation chapter looks like for you. So I am kind of still hopeful that I can get all 3 chapter drafts done by the end of February, but we'll see what happens. Part of my plan in vlogging this process is that sometimes when I articulate what I'm going through and what my plans are to you, I get more motivated to follow through on those plans because I've told someone. So you are my accountability partner. Please wish me luck in the comment section below or give me advice. Thank you for being here. I'm in the middle of a Pomodoro session and I want to get back into the work, but I will keep you posted on what's going on in this process, and hopefully I'll do weekly-ish vlogs until the end of my PhD so you can see what that looks like, someone going through the last motions of their PhD. Also, by telling you that I'm doing this, now I actually have to. I can't just quit. I can't just quit my PhD now, which people do. So I'm going to finish uploading my notes about reassembling the social into my Obsidian. I'm going to finish off my work session for the morning. And then this weekend, I'm actually going away to see some friends from my undergrad. And I'm probably not going to get to do any work on my PhD, but I will bring at least a book with me so that I can reacquaint myself with some of the ideas that I'm going to be putting into my second chapter. So hopefully I can at least keep the ideas fresh in my mind and be thinking about the dissertation while I'm away. So I'm going to get back to it for now, but I will talk to you soon. I spent the morning working on my notes on the Bruno Latour book, and then I had lunch and went for a run at lunch at an indoor track because it has been like minus 11 degrees before wind chill where I am lately, so it's a little colder than I want to be running outside in, plus there's a ton of snow, which makes running a little difficult on the sidewalks. And then after my run, I got a large package delivered to my house, which kind of derailed my afternoon. But I wanted to circle back to my notes on the Latour reading because people sometimes ask me how much they should be putting into their Obsidian when they do a reading. Like, they go through the book and they're highlighting things that they find important that they might want to save for later, but they end up highlighting like the entire book because it's all really interesting. And it would be totally valueless to just upload the entire book into your Obsidian. That doesn't make any sense. So what should you be pulling out and how much should you be pulling out? Ultimately, the answer is going to depend on you and depend on what you're working on with it and depend on the book, because some books just are more valuable than others and are going to give you more insights than others. So I'll give you this example of a book that I do think will be very relevant, and so I am pulling a lot, but at the same time I find that Latour kind of goes on for a while until he says the like one sentence that is useful. So I haven't saved maybe as much as I have saved from some other books that are like punchier throughout the text. So let me just grab you from there and spin you around to look at my computer screen. Okay, here is the beginning of my notes on this book. So there's the MLA citation, and then I've just listed the section of the book that my notes have come from. So I started with the introduction, of course, and I always like to start with a bit of a summary of what the book is about. So that's what that is. The main goal of this book is to blah, 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 and I use a quote from the book. Ultimately, his questions are, and then I list some of the questions that he had that he wrote directly into the book. And then I added another few quotes from the introduction that were useful to me. Then, oftentimes, writers, at the end of their introduction, will give you a chapter breakdown, or in this case, a parts breakdown. So in part 1, I'm doing this, part 2, I'm doing this, part 3, I'm doing this, and here's how I'm doing it. I'm questioning the 5 uncertainties. And then the way that he has structured the next part of the book is just to go through each of the uncertainties. So there's the first source of uncertainty. And then I've documented this many quotes before the second source of uncertainty. So that's how many quotes I have shared from this section. You'll see that as I'm taking my notes, sometimes one of them really jumps out at me and I want to turn it into a note of its own. So this one was that for me. I link the book, of course, and then I write the quote where I got this idea. I say in other words or in my words, this is what's happening. And then I find some other things from my Zettelkasten that I want to relate it to. In this case, I also found another idea from Latour that I wanted to relate it to that comes later. You'll also see that I originally made this note from page 23, something he said on page 23, but later I found something from page 57 that also fit really well. So I added that much later in my note-taking process because I was like, wait a second, I just took a note that is related to this. The other way that I'm sort of structuring as I go, as I document the notes, is when something really jumps out at me, another thing I'll do is like structure it so that it pops on the page and then make sort of like this list. So for instance, he has this performative definition of groups, and that's important to me because I'm in performance studies. And then here are the points that he made about performative groups versus ostensive groups. Another 2 definitions came in this subsection of intermediary and mediator, so I made those pop out, and then I added some more subpoints about mediators and intermediaries because it seems like it's going to be an important thing in the book. You'll see that he uses the word actor a lot, and he recognizes that it is a metaphor that comes from the theater. So here are the points that he lists about theater and the word actor and how he's using it in this kind of like deep, extended metaphorical way, which is important to me because I'm in theater and performance studies. So you can see that I'm really pulling out the things that are super directly relevant to me, that I might use in my writing. I'm not pulling out absolutely everything. I'm pulling out important definitions, and I'm pulling out things that are directly related to me and my work. And then you've got that next note that I ended up taking, and then we're into the third source of uncertainty, and this is for about 80 pages or so in the book. So I hope that little breakdown of what I actually did when I was putting these notes from this book into my Obsidian was helpful, and I think that's all of the dissertation work I'm going to get to today, so I just added notes for about 80 pages of text into my Obsidian today. That's what I did. Sometimes that doesn't feel like enough, because I'm not adding new words to my document, but I do know that this is going to help me add those words later, and this is what my brain was ready for today. I'm back from my weekend away to visit my friends, and it was a really lovely catch-up. I haven't seen them in a year. Every year or so we get together and do some event. So last year it was a spa day. This year it was high tea at this beautiful bed and breakfast. We also played some board games, which was very fun, and I got to have brunch with my undergraduate supervisor. And I haven't seen her in many years, but she is the person that taught me to love theater theory and taught me everything I know about teaching, and I still think back to classes I took with her because they were just so effective for inciting this passion for learning into me. So it was really wonderful to get to talk with her after so many years. And then I actually was back yesterday, but I didn't end up filming anything. I did work a bit on my PhD though. I continued putting in notes from Bruno Latour's book, Reassembling the Social. And I finished adding notes for the section I thought was going to be super helpful. And I thought it was going to be helpful for my second chapter, which is the chapter I've started working on. But I think it's actually most helpful for my first chapter, which is fine. And I added some of those notes into my first chapter. It's more than an outline, but it's less than polished. So I shoved it in somewhere. And I think that is going to add something to my first chapter, but I am an overwriter, so I've only put it in as kind of point form notes for now. I do still have to go back through the first chapter because I already have a bunch of edits from other people that I've shown the chapter to that I want to make before it gets sent to my committee. And so at that time, I'll just decide if this stuff from Reassembling the Social is actually important and relevant and should be said there, and then I will articulate it in better words than just point form Obsidian links. And then after my PhD work session in the morning yesterday, I went and did some hot yoga, which was really nice, but I'm very sore today because I'm only just getting into hot yoga and my body is not at all used to it yet. And then I just did a bunch of work for other things I've got going on in my life, like teaching and volunteering. And also notably yesterday, the Academy Award nominees were put out, and I love to watch as many of those movies as possible so that when I watch the award ceremony, it's like a fun event. And so I also last night continued working my way through Killers of the Flower Moon, but it's 3.5 hours long and I still have a half hour left, so that felt like it took up my entire evening. So today I'm just gonna skim through the end of Reassembling the Social and see if there's anything else that might be super relevant that I should be adding now, and if not, then I'm going to move back onto my second chapter and keep working through that, maybe picking up other texts that I need to revisit before really fleshing out that chapter, and I'll check in with you later. I hope I'm in frame. It's so hard filming by yourself in a small apartment, but here we are at my main bookshelves. I have 3 other bookshelves in the apartment, but they're all a mess, so that's why I mainly film in front of these ones, and I hope even these ones are going to get a makeover again soon. But the reason we are here is because I recently finished a book I read. We Had to Remove This Post, a novel. It's more like a novella. It's 150 pages by Hannah Barefoots? I asked my Dutch friend how to pronounce that and I've already forgotten, but it was good throughout until the last 2 pages, and then I was really disappointed, and it really felt like the author just gave up in a way, didn't have an ending, and so did something dramatic and drastic that didn't make, to me, a whole lot of sense. But maybe I just need to go online and read a bit more about it. I will say this is one of the lowest rated books I think that I've ever read, based on Goodreads ratings. It has like a 2.95 on Goodreads. And I usually read books that are like a 4 and above if I'm going based on Goodreads ratings alone. Although I do end up sometimes enjoying like a 3.5 and above rated book. For me, it was like a 3.5 stars throughout until the end, and then it did drop down to probably a 2.5 stars. If you want to read something also about the internet, but that I actually enjoyed more, I would recommend The Novelist, or, what's it called? Why Nobody is Talking About This, or Uncanny Valley. So those are my recommendations if you didn't like this book, but you want something kind of similar. Nobody is Talking About This in particular, I quite liked. That would be my favorite of this kind of like weird subgenre of like internet fiction. And Uncanny Valley is not fiction, but it kind of felt like fiction to me. Okay, but the real reason we're at the book shelves is because I'm gonna pick my next read. Now I am in the middle of some reads that are not exciting me, I guess. I'm in the middle of Red Mars. I have not very much left of that. But I'm finding it tedious. I'm almost done Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty, I believe, and I do just need to get back into that. For some reason I stopped and I haven't picked it up, but it was very good. I'm partway through the second book in the Expanse series, so I do need to pick that back up sometime. But I guess I just haven't really been feeling sci-fi lately. I'm also partway through A Creative Act, so that's the nonfiction I have on the go. This is like the most books I've ever been reading at one time, and then obviously the academic books that I'm reading or rereading. Now, the books that I'm most excited to pick up, firstly is probably Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. Because I just got this for Christmas and everybody says amazing things about this book, although I don't really know what it's about. Or for a nonfiction, after I'm done A Creative Act, I'm probably going to pick up Permanent Astonishment by Thompson Highway. It's his memoir. Thompson Highway is an Indigenous playwright, and I had the pleasure of seeing one of his plays produced at the Stratford Festival in Ontario, just like 2 or 3 years ago, so I'm really excited to read his memoir. You'll also see some of the other books that I got for Christmas or my birthday recently, which are Malice by John Gwynne. I'm kind of excited to get into John Gwynne. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is something that people have been loving over the past little while. The Girls by Emma Cline. Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein, which was nominated for, or maybe won, the Scotiabank Giller Prize in Canada this year. And it was on some other prize list as well. But here's the deal. My goal this year for books is to read the books I own. And one of the ways that I am making that more desirable for myself is by creating these little book grab jar things. So far I've made the one for literary fiction, contemporary sci-fi and fantasy, and my 30 before 30 list, because if you look back on my channel, you'll see I have a video where I say the 30 books I want to read before I'm 30, and I've only read one of the 30 books, and we only have a year to go. The one that I've read is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. So those are the books I gotta get to in the next year. That said, I don't really feel like reading any of them, so I don't know if I'm gonna pull from there. What I really feel like lately is literary fiction, but maybe I'll pull one literary fiction and one 30 before 30 in this video, and we'll see if I can get through those before my next PhD vlog comes out. Oh my goodness, okay. From the 30 before 30 jar, I pulled the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, which is a Gertrude Stein novel. I'm not sure if I have it, but I'm gonna have to source that somehow. The other part of this yearly sort of like goal is that I'm trying not to buy many or any new books for the shelves, because I do just have to read what I have. So the exception to that is if I pick a 30 before 30 book that I don't already own, I'm allowed to buy that. But also I should get it from the library if possible. So the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas will be the first 30 before 30 book I read this year. And the literary fiction book that I'll read next, I'm kind of excited about this. It's a shorter one. I think it'll be a fairly quick read. I was actually just looking at it. It's on another shelf. It's Less. I can't remember the author's name, but this is an award-winning book. And yeah, it's pretty short, I believe. So, I think it has a sequel as well now. So that's that's kind of exciting. I was kind of thinking maybe I will pull this book, so that's weird. Anyway, I'm gonna go put those books by my bed so that I actually read them, and I will update you in a future video. And that's a wrap on the first vlog of this series. One other important thing to note is that on the final day of this vlog, I also received word that I got into a conference I applied for. I applied as a panel with 2 other academics that I know, and we were accepted. So I'm gonna get to start working on that, and I applied with the final chapter of my dissertation. So hopefully that'll offer me support in the writing of that chapter. I've already gotten to work on the next episode of this vlog series, so I'm gonna let you go, but I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Bye!